To talk about how to make your own control map for your keyboard for pdpi. So the first thing is I've got the pdpi project right here, and I'm on my regular desktop computer, so I have a nice graphical environment. And if I open up control map, I've got Pure Data Extended installed, which is the basic engine that makes everything work on pdpi. So once this loads up, we should get pretty much the same patch loaded that normally we'd have loaded on the pdpi. Now, this looks a little complicated when you first open it up, but this is the mapping for my Oxygen 25 keyboard. So this is just like a USB MIDI keyboard, and basically there's several different controls. We've got some buttons which get sent when you push the buttons on the face of the Oxygen 25. We've got the mod wheel, we've got the volume slider, and then we've got several knobs. I've got 8 set up here. And those are just the knobs that are up on the top right-hand side of the keyboard. So it really kind of depends on your keyboard and what your keyboard looks like. But I'll show you how to set it up for yourself. So the idea is that the knobs are the primary way to interface with the parameters, right? So mod and volume and buttons, those will do other things like if you need them to, but for the most part, you just want to think about the knobs like up front. So in order to see what the mapping for your knobs is, if you press on a Mac, you'd press Command 1, and that means you're going to add a new thing. On Linux or Windows, it'd be Control 1. And you say CTLIN, which means MIDI control in. And if we pack the 3 of those with a pack 000, and we'll just put all these in there, and then do a print, we can see anything that comes in. We can see what's up with that. So here's the print statement. And I've got my keyboard plugged in, but I got to make sure that the MIDI setting is set to Oxygen 25 like that. So it is. That's great. So now if I press, if I turn any of the knobs on the keyboard, you'll see it outputs a whole bunch of data. Now there's 3 parameters that come off of the control in, and the last one is channel, which we don't really worry about. The second one is the control number, which is what's actually important. And then the first one is the value, which gets used later on. So if we say, if we map a knob, see how I have a bunch of routes here? What this means is take the first message which comes in, and I rearrange them so that this is the first message, which makes it so you can easily route. So when the message comes in, take any message that has, for example, a 74 at the beginning, and route it to that parameter. So if we count from the left, 1, 7, 74, 1, 7, 74, that gets routed to knob 1. So when I turn my first knob, it outputs 74, and I route it to knob 1. So you can do this with any numbers that you put in this route statement. Whatever is the middle number off the control in gives you an idea of what to use when you're mapping it. So we can do that. And then also with buttons, it's a little bit different. So buttons either send a 0 or a 1, and that's whether or not it's pressed. And so what I'm doing here is I'm sending 113, like whether or not it's 0 or 127, it'll send a button message for button 1. So 113 is mapped right here. When I press the first button, as you can see in the window, it's sending 0 and 127. That goes into Moses, which will split it to be either things before 1 or things after 1. Since 0 is before 1, it hits the button. That sends it out. So I've got 2 messages here. Anything above 1 or above will go to button 1 and it'll send a 1. Everything below will send 0. So this basically sends 0 or 1 on the button 1 message. Now you can do this with all your buttons. They all work the same way. Mod and volume, they work just like these knobs. The mod control is control 1. So I'm turning the mod wheel right now, and it's 0 to 127. And I've got my volume routed to a slider that's control message number 7, as you can see in the print window. So that's why the first 2 are 1 and 7, and they go to mod and volume. You can set this up however you want. Basically, you just need to send out the messages that are the same format. So mod, volume, knob, or button. And it should be in the form of 0 through 127 for just about everything except for the buttons, which are 0 and 1. And I just did that because most things that I control with buttons, I generally need it to be in that range, so that helps a lot with that. Just makes the code simpler later on. So that's about it for building new routes, new control routes, so that you can set up your personal MIDI keyboard and have it work with PDPi. Have fun.